Thank you for joining us live with Miami's Community News, and I'm Michael Miller. We're with Frank Calderon from the Miami Dade Solid Waste Department. Thank you very much for being here, Frank.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
So one of the things that most people don't think about, other than taking it out the street, is what happens to the trash, rubbish that we put into the green carts. For starters, how many homes get serviced with those green carts in Miami-Dade County?
About 350,000. 350,000.
That's a lot of homes.
Yes. Yes.
In addition to that, many cities have their own
Yes.
pickup.
Some of the larger cities tend to do that. Off the top of my head, Miami, Coral Gables, Miami Beach, Hialeah.
Big cities.
And those are the only ones that I can think of, like right off the bat.
And where do they take that, their carts?
Well, once it gets loaded onto one of the trucks, most likely one of our facilities, one of our disposal facilities.
So one of the things that cities like, the residents, they like to see that the emblem and the logo of their city right on there because it makes us feel good. So we have 340,000 homes get serviced twice a week.
Yes.
By Miami-Dade County Solid Waste. So, and that group is, how many square miles is that service area?
The service area is about 300. Our service area is about 320 square miles. That again does not include the cities that have their own service, which include the big ones that I mentioned. There's a few smaller cities that don't get service from us for garbage. South Miami, for example, which is near here, is a city that gets recycling service from us, but not garbage.
So we have a lot of homes, 340 get serviced twice a week. How many routes is that broken up with the 300 square miles plus?
Well, I believe they have 156. What I'm not clear on is it 156 per day or 156 total? But
it's a lot.
That's the number I got. Yeah, that's quite a bit. It's quite a bit.
So we got this big garbage truck, and now you have the all-electric one.
Yes.
That's out there,
Yes.
right, servicing a smaller area right now. And so how many stops might that garbage truck stop at a day?
About 1,100, 1,200, something like that. That's how many homes they pick up in one day.
That is
Each
incredible.
driver.
And they don't get sick from start, stop, start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. It's amazing. And so in the old days, only guys would do it. And then when they started, ladies on the back of this truck putting the stuff in there. But right now, you have a mixture of men and women driving those trucks.
That's correct.
How does one learn to drive a truck that size?
Well, it starts with having a CDL license, and just learning to drive trucks in general, because trucks obviously they're bigger than a regular car or even an SUV or even a big pickup truck or whatever. There's different properties associated with it. When you're driving a big truck, of course, it's a lot bigger. It takes a lot to get it going. It takes a lot to stop it, more than a regular vehicle. That's why truck drivers often get upset when people cut them off or whatever, and they have to slam on the brakes. Especially with this is especially true as I understand it, because I don't have a CDL and I don't know how to drive a truck. But from what I understand, like with the big tractor trailers, it's the brakes aren't enough, and in fact, the brakes they usually try not to hit the brakes too much when they have to quote unquote slam on the brakes in an emergency. They actually downshift. And they actually use the gears, use the compression of the engine to bring the vehicle down. So you can learn that first, and then we teach you the specifics of how to use the garbage truck.
So the driver pulls up, they got the green carts that are out there, they got some joystick. Is that right at the driver's seat right here?
I'm trying to remember the configuration because they drive right-handed when they're picking up on their routes.
Oh.
So I believe the joystick is on the left.
And so they look in the camera to see where it is?
And I don't know if they have a camera on board. I think they use a combination of camera and mirrors.
Oh, okay. And then they grab that can, not too tight, we hope, and then they pick it up and they dump it into the...
Sometimes they'll give it an extra bang to make sure there's nothing stuck in there.
Lots of times people try to jam too much stuff in there.
Yeah.
And if it does, it takes a while to knock the stuff out. Can the service person look inside the can and say it's all gone?
No, that they can't do.
So
they don't have the capacity for that.
But they can see if it's on the top.
I believe that they can see when it's on top. They can see that I don't even know if they can see that, to be honest. I think sometimes they give it a couple of shakes to make sure everything falls out. I don't know that they can see the can on the top as it goes over the top.
It is amazing that these ladies and gents, can pick up those cans, put it in there, and then put it right back, pretty much the same spot, without knocking it over. And in the totality of stuff, because I look on the street, it's pretty clean. I mean, there's not all this trash, that's on there, unless you're like me, that tries to jam all the stuff in, and then it falls out. And I only look at me.
Well, the trick on that is just keep everything bagged, make sure it's not overflowing. If the lid closes and everything's bagged, it should, nothing should fall out of it should go right into the truck, and that should be the end of that.
And of course, most people have the blue cards, which are for things to recycle.
For recycle, yeah.
And the greatest news I heard is that your recycler is now taking pizza boxes,
Yes.
even with all the grease.
Well, I was under the understanding that not too much grease is preferable, but yeah, they'll take them with grease.
So for the consumers, okay, you put the pizza boxes over there, and then it goes to some plant, and they sort of sort it out to see what they need. And there must be a lot of trucks out there every day if you have to service 340,000 people.
I think our fleet is about 180 trucks in the neighborhood.
And those are out every day.
I think they keep a small pool in reserve just in case, if the break down, they need a replacement. But for the most part, most of them are out there.
So is the assumption if you have 180 trucks, you have 180 plus drivers?
Yeah, roughly, yes.
Yep. And if somebody's looking for a job with the county, where do they go?
If they're looking for any type of job with the
Yep.
county, it's miamidade.gov/jobs. Of course, we generally have a need for for drivers, who waste collection drivers. I don't think that there's an open advertisement for it right now, but we do advertise it from time to time, and it's a pretty good job. You work 4 days a week, get 3 off, and all the holidays. You do have to work a lot of holidays, but you end up getting paid, and you end up getting there's a special deal. I don't know if they pay you extra or if you get extra leave time or something. But
So we pray
you
for
get some kind of
so we pray for
compensation
holidays. So lots of benefits. 4-day week, which is I'm not sure when 4 days a week became popular, but certainly COVID really did that, and we do that here all the time. Right? We have people 4 days, right? And as time went on, say, okay, well, you're doing pretty good. Want to come in 3 days? That's fine, especially if their work is going to them and they can in the writing department. You see that's pretty common. So on the website at miamidade.gov/solid waste,
Yes.
people can find out all sorts of stuff. They can go on a virtual tour and see all the neat stuff. So you can take your kids and your grandkids for a tour, right? And the recycling thing is pretty neat as well. And so let's look at some of those trucks that are out there now, not including the new one. What's the age of those trucks, more or less, on average, if you had to guess?
A few years, but I can't really say. I know that sometime a couple of years ago or so, we got a grant from the EPA for low emissions trucks to buy several trucks, and I know that they were in the process of that. I don't know where it is exactly.
That's
They were
different.
going to buy about 20. That's different from electric.
Yep.
But they're much less lower emissions than regular diesel trucks. And I think we were looking to purchase 25, but I don't know if that has happened yet or not. But I know that was in the works. So that would, obviously, the more new trucks we get in, the younger the age of the fleet as a whole.
So will there be a time in the next 10 years that most of the trucks will be electric, or do you think they'll just be low?
Low emission? That is a good question. Obviously the goal is to go with electric if possible. The one that we have now is kind of our pilot or our test to see how it works out.
We know it costs substantially more to it, but it lasts longer, less
In
maintenance.
the beginning, yes.
Right? Less maintenance. And at some point, it's like really working well. Put aside for a moment the environmental differences, right? Yeah, you can't exclude that, obviously. But at some point, you say, this is really working. When is that? When is that point we reach the midway point or the 3/4? Do you know when that is?
I don't know when it is. I can tell you that you mentioned costs, and that's a good point. Up front, they do cost more than a regular, diesel vehicle. But you have lower maintenance. For example, with a standard diesel vehicle. There we go. With a standard diesel vehicle, or like anybody who has a gasoline car, you're supposed to do maintenance every 3 months. With the electrics, you can do maintenance once a year. So you're cutting out 3 maintenance visits. You're basically 25% of the maintenance that you need to do That's one area. If fuel costs remain high, as they have kind of been for the last few years, the electric actually end up costing less over the long haul. As a matter of fact, our fleet manager told me that I think like 5, 6, 7 years, something in that neighborhood, the trucks will pay for themselves,
And of
basically
course,
in the savings on fuel.
of course, we have the other side of that, which is we just plug it into the wall and it works, right? Obviously, there's Florida Power and Light is, I think at this point, cheering it on, yes, change everything. So there are going to be a lot more electric vehicles coming up. It sounds like in the next 10 years, it's going to be a massive, massive difference. Um, people I know are waiting for more options about where to recharge their cars. That seems to be the big deal, right?
There's quite a lot, but yeah.
Yes, and I see the big trucks are doing it now. It's really common. The big thing with the garbage trucks is they're very quiet. And if we're used to and hearing
Oh,
that, right? So it's really quiet.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I was driving not that far from here some time ago, and as I was driving, I saw the carts lined up on the street, and then I hear and see the truck coming, and sure enough, I see somebody come out of his house and push his cart out before and I hate to say this, but that's probably the person that if he would have missed the truck by a minute, he would have called screaming, saying, "They missed me!"
Yeah. Yes, but no, you didn't put it out until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There's just for clarity, some people's garbage get picked up at 7 in the morning and some at
Later in
5.
the day, it could go as late as 4 or 5.
And it,
They technically they could work as long as it's as long as it's light out. Once it's dark, you can't, because then you got that arm coming up, and electrical wire. Other things can be a hazard, but electrical wires in particular are very. Something metal comes within a certain range, doesn't even have to touch. It can cause, you know, like a charge to come through, and we don't want that. Nobody wants that. So that's why they can only work during daylight hours.
so how many green carts filled can go into the average garbage truck? More or less.
About 1,100, about as many as the households there are. Yeah.
In one truck,
Yes.
1,100 of
Before
those
they have
carts.
to go in. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. That's per day. Half of that, because
So
most
600
of them
these-
have to dump about halfway through.
And they squish it up as much as
So
they
about
can.
500 to 600 roughly.
How much does that 500 to 600 weigh? More
That's a
or less.
good question. I'd have to ask.
bunch.
A few tons, I'm guessing, but I don't know how much.
It's-
1 or 2 tons, something like that, maybe.
It's truly amazing that that thing can, and it squishes it up, right?
Yeah.
And then eventually, if that winds up at a landfill, that it gets squished a little bit more and buried. So what does Miami-Dade County look like in 10 years as far as landfills and what we're going to do with our garbage?
That is a good question that people are working on in our department. Hopefully we reduce how much landfill we need to use. Of course, we have the fire at our incineration facility, which is which is unfortunate. Our hope was to build something like that, a new one anyway. We're looking at all the options that are out there. And of course, we're encouraging people to reduce the amount of waste. I think as a society, we're moving in that direction anyway. And that'll be good to see. And that would be helpful because it has to go somewhere at some point. If you produce waste, it has to go somewhere. For public health reasons, the whole waste management industry was created because of public health reasons. Because having garbage piled up in front of your house is not healthy.
So we see companies like Amazon. There's several options as far as a carton. Sometimes I'll get it and it's an old beat up carton. I remember I checked off a thing, and then I ordered some jeans. It actually came just in the plastic bag. No box.
Yeah,
I'm going, good.
Getting a few things like that.
The only issue is my size was right there for everybody to see. Not that anybody cared. But. So instead of before, it would have gone into another plastic container or maybe
possibly
into
a
a box, right? Which caused that whole recycling
But
issue.
here's the thing: the box can be recycled. The bag really can't easily be recycled.
And so
I'm not saying the bag can't be recycled at all. It can't be recycled in our program, but it's not as easy to recycle bags.
It's amazing how our habits have changed and how our buying habits and then the shipping habits and then how that affects the recycling issue. There are other recyclers throughout the country that they recycle different stuff than the county's recycler.
Yes.
So, right, because before people would take pizza boxes from another place, and I understand the plastic bags that we get from Publix and CVS, we don't recycle them here.
We don't recycle them in our program, but they can be recycled. It just is a different process than what we use for our program. That's why we only accept like plastic bottles, for example. But I've seen, at multiple retail stores, I've seen Publix will take at least their bags. I don't know if they'll take other store bags. I've seen Walmart stores that have a receptacle at the front of the store or right by the door that says that they'll take any type of plastic bag, whether it's somebody else's store, whether it's theirs. It can be dry cleaning bag, any type of plastic bag, any type of that filmy plastic, basically. The important thing that I advise people on is just make sure to check first before you come in with a handful of, or an armful of these plastic bags to dump and then find out that the place won't take them.
Let's talk about propane tanks, because I'm thinking about the stuff that we get from our stores, right? Lots of times people have a grill, and they give up the grill, and they have this old rusted propane
Yes.
tank that probably has something left in it. What do you want people to do with it? Or what do you don't want them to do with it?
The first thing we don't want them to do is to put it in either blue or green cart. It should not go in your garbage. It should definitely not go in your recycling. It's a hazard. It's dangerous. Somebody could get hurt. What we ask people to do is, try to take it back to the store if they'll recycle it and take it from you. If not, we do have 2 home chemical collection centers where they can take it.
And the people at the home chemical centers, they can bring all their household stuff, leftover
They can
oil.
bring pesticides, fertilizers that they're not using anymore, or anything like that. Yes.
Now, we know the county says, please do not fertilize your yard during the season. I bet that season's coming up.
I think so, but I don't know what it is. That's something I got to look into.
And for that same reason, that same concept of fertilization is why you don't dump oil, the ground. You think it doesn't matter. Cumulatively, it does matter.
Yes, our source of drinking water is like, I can tell you this because I used to work for the water and sewer department, and I'm not their spokesman. I want to make it clear, but I still know that the Biscayne Aquifer basically starts the surface of the ground, basically. So if you pour the oil, it's going to go into the drinking water source almost immediately.
So on April 15th in Biscayne Bay, a young lady, she's 22, her name is Merle, I think her last name, is going to set her 4th world record, swimming like a mermaid with not using her hands, not using her arms. It's going to take her over 14 consecutive hours.
Wow.
Just to raise awareness about pollution in Biscayne Bay and around the world. So
And that's around the time that our sister department has been ended, too,
okay,
roughly.
right. So, and I think it's important for us to draw attention to it and to be able to say, here's what happens when you throw this stuff out the window. I was on 27th Avenue near US 1 after the big storm, and they were over there in the city, one of the cities in Miami-Dade County, pumping the trash out of
Storm
the drains. That's all
It
stuff.
could have been this. Yeah, it might have been, say, US 1, 27th Avenue. It depends.
And they have
State has jurisdiction on
So
US
they
1
have these big pipes,
proper and
and
27th
and
Avenue.
I'm going to suggest that
I'm not sure.
they weren't pumping the water. They were trying to get the blockage out.
Yeah, they probably got a complaint that there was flooding there, and and then they went there and checked the storm drain and saw, whoa, and then that's
And so much of that, yes, there's landscaping stuff, but some of it, we as human beings put a lot of that stuff.
garbage.
And
yeah.
by the way, the water went from the street onto the sidewalk, over the next lip, and then into the drive-through in McDonald's and up to the
Wow.
up to where the grass is on the.
Was that
yeah,
this weekend? This past weekend?
Thursday.
Or
Wednesday,
last
Thursday,
week? Yeah,
I
we
think.
had the rain that we had, yeah. Wow.
So, and I know that we have lots of problems with their septic tanks, the water level, and so trash and all that stuff, the stuff that's going on, it certainly is a big, gigantic thing for all of us. And I know the county's addressing it, head on. So I hope that our governments can get together and get some money from Washington and take care of our issues down here. So here we are. This is April. Hurricane season is a couple months away.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. And what do you want people to do?
Now absolutely is the time. If you know that you've got the tree that's a little bit old and it's got this one limb that's kind of hinky looking, and you think it might fall and maybe, damage part of your roof or your house, or you park your car under it and you're worried that your car is going to end up having a squashed roof, now is the time to coordinate, request a bulky waste pickup appointment, which now it's by appointment, and get the tree limb hacked off or whatever you need to do in your yard, your backyard, your front yard, to prepare yourself for hurricane season. Make sure you don't have any debris or anything that could either fall or fly around. Now is the time to get rid of
So
it.
they call
Now is the
311 or
time.
go to,
Or miamidade.gov/bulky waste.
and it's really simple, right? Because if this guy was able to figure it out, it's simple. Where are you going to put it? What's it made of? And they get, and then you can ask for a date in particular, and they're
Yes.
going to see.
And they'll send it. And just a reminder, you have to call before you place the stuff out. We had this new program of appointments where you call and they give you a specific date starting last year, January of last year. So it's been in place for about a year and a few months now. And we weren't doing any serious enforcement, but we were giving people courtesy notices if they put the stuff out too early. They began enforcement. We mailed to all of our customers a mailer that notes that we began enforcement as of April 1st. And that's no April Fool's joke.
Is that today?
But that April 1st was actually
Last year.
Saturday.
I mean, but this year.
Yeah, this year.
Okay.
So we went a year and 3 months, 3 whole months without any serious enforcement, but now we're going to start. So it's
So
very
people
important.
need to
Call
get-
first and set it out there no more than 3 days. When you get your appointment date, look at 3 days on the calendar before and you put it out then.
So
But not
whoever's
earlier.
going to cut it, you need to say, need to be
You need
here.
to
we
coordinate,
need to have it
yes.
on the
But
street.
now is the time to do it so that you can get it done and out of the way before the season
Across the street
starts.
from our office, there's an old tree. There was probably, well, this covered about half of it. It fell over, broke right out of the ground, hit a car. It was in the street. So the point of that is, you have trees on your property that are old, or they got these very big limbs on them, and maybe it's not working anymore. Get your guy to come and cut it, put it out there. Is there a maximum size length you want those things to be, it's trees?
They want them, I believe, about 5 feet or less. If you're going to cut down like a long, especially if it's a long tree limb or long tree trunk or something like that, about 5 feet or less.
And if you have these huge piles, really big, at least where I live, people like to take advantage of the piles.
Oh, yeah.
So I just happen to, I take pictures when I do it now, so that when it adds to it, right, I go, hey, and I call and say, listen, I got a picture, this was the other day, and when I think I told you, I see some guy there dumping his stuff. No problem. I just took a picture of him hauling his stuff. I didn't go anywhere. I'm getting too old to be able to, I don't want the confrontation anymore. So if they see somebody doing that, just be very cautious about it.
Yeah, if you actually see somebody doing it, you can call 911. It's a crime in progress. If it's after the fact, you go and you see stuff added to your pile, then you have to call 311 because you're not seeing the witness. And really quick, just touch on that. That's part of the reason why we went to the 3-day, to the appointment and only 3 days in advance, is to cut down on, because if you have it out there for, like in the old days, 8, 9, 10 days, you have your pile out there, temptation.
So what the cities and maybe the county would do, they know if you leave graffiti up there, that somebody else is going to come along and tag it as well. So that's why I say, you paint it
Get rid of
now.
it as quickly as possible.
It makes it, it slows it down. We got this old boat on 118th Avenue, somebody listening, right? And it's the second one in 3 months. The people just take it and they dump it there. It's a real bother. The only guy that wasn't bothered was the guy that dumped it. But somebody from the county has to go see it, then they have to send probably
Enforcement officer to take a
enforcement
look.
and probably 2 people, 2 trucks. They got to lift it up there, and hopefully there's some ID that's on that. Tell us about the secret cameras around town.
Yes, we do have them in various places. We have a whole division dedicated to enforcing illegal dumping. With the use of, they use cameras as well. So it's not just, actual people out there looking, but we have cameras, hidden cameras in various places, and we've caught quite a few people on video. Sometimes still cameras, sometimes video. We work in conjunction with police who have a unit of police officers dedicated to nothing but illegal dumping. So to show you how serious we take it, and if it's a serious enough case, it can result not just in a fine but arrest and having the vehicle seized.
And today, in the environment, everybody has a camera. I mean,
Yeah.
in Dade County, what are there? There's 3 million people, and let's say are there 2 million cameras?
Could be.
$1 million?
You never know.
Or
It's
a
not like
third?
it's not like
Everybody I know has got a camera in their
Yeah.
pocket. So, as folks, it's not worth it. You can take your stuff over to there's how many trash recycling centers?
we
are there?
have 13. They're open to people who get service from us. But yeah, we have 13 centers. That's one of the things that we've seen happen too with illegal people. Either they didn't know or they didn't want to wait in line. And yes, on the weekends it can get busy. So some of them there's a little bit of a line to wait, but it's better than having to pay a fine. And I think it starts at $250.
And Frank, those are open every day.
They're open every day of the week. They only close 3 days out of the year. Well, unless there's a hurricane. Unless there's a hurricane or some other emergency or whatever, they're doing maintenance or whatever, but they're scheduled to close 3 holidays out of the year: Martin Luther King Day, July 4th, and Christmas Day. That is it.
So there's plenty of time for people to take, and there's one certainly within 6 or 7 miles of everybody, 8 miles maximum.
Pretty much. I don't know what the range, but something around that.
Whenever I pass the one out where I live, I don't know, it's something about us. There's a certain enjoyment. People are kind of finally got all the stuff out of their house, and bring it over there. What a good feeling when they get that truck finally empty. Yes, victory. Let's go
Yeah.
celebrate somewhere.
There you go.
So Frank, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for
and
having
keep
me.
up the good work.
All right.
Again, thanks for joining us, folks. Again, this is live with Miami's Community News. If you need to find out anything about Miami Dade Solid Waste, feel free to go to the website. Again, that's miamidade.gov/solid
Gov.
waste. Folks, have a great day. See you.